Hey everybody, hope this finds you doing fantastic. And we are nearing the end of February. So let's go ahead and talk about Bitcoin and what is left. As usual, we try to take a little bit of perspective when it comes to the crypto market, particularly when we are in a bear market, which we currently are. Bitcoin is down about 45%, currently trading just around 68,000, now at $67,897 at time of recording. Ethereum currently trading still under $2,000 at $1,970. We have XRP at $1.42, Solana trading just under $85. We have Dogecoin, the largest meme coin of them all, under 10 cents, down 14% over the past week, and Bitcoin Cash and Cardano rounding out the top 11. So we wanted to talk about how many Bitcoin has already been bought and what is left. So we do know that Bitcoin has 21 million supply, and every 4 years, approximately every 4 years, there is what they call a Bitcoin halving. So that means that the amount of Bitcoin that is awarded to the miners mining Bitcoin and monitoring and following all the transactions and creating Bitcoin and the Bitcoin issuance, there's only going to be 21 million. So after each halving, the reward is cut in half. So currently, if we go here to bitbo.io, they have historical halving dates here, and you can see the historical Bitcoin halving dates. The first was in 2012 on November 28th. Then the second was in 2016 in July. The third was in May of 2020. And the last one that we had was in April of 2024. And usually with this halving, the year after the halving is when Bitcoin tends to reach all-time highs, and we did that once again after this last halving, where Bitcoin did reach all-time highs in 2025, but some people were disappointed in the fact that we didn't have the type of run-up that Bitcoin normally has after the halving. So we're going to see what happens in 2026 if we go by the 4-year cycle, which is still yet to remain to be seen. This would be a down year, and as of right now, we do see that Bitcoin is currently down. As you can see, year to date, Bitcoin is down 22%. So obviously we're still at the very beginning stages of 2026, so we'll see what happens for the remainder of the year. But as of right now, we believe this is a great accumulation period. We're basically in that range between 60 and 70,000, and we're pretty much ranging in that amount, in that area, a lot of 2024 actually, after the halving and once the Bitcoin ETFs really started to get going. So anyway, we know that they're only going to be 21 million. So you can see here, and it goes out as far as 2048. When we get to 2048, the miners will only be able to get 0.0488 Bitcoin. That's going to be the block reward for each block that is mined. So right now it is currently at about 3 BTC, and then you see in 2028 it is going to go in, could be cut in half to 1.56, and then it'll continue to go down all the way down till the last Bitcoin, which is projected to be mined in 2140. So many of us will not be here to see that, but as we see, less and less Bitcoin is going to be mined as we move forward. So basically in the next 20 years or so, it's going to be pretty much de minimis. So we know that right now there is only about 1 million left to be mined. So basically there's about 20 million Bitcoin that is currently out in circulation. So when you think about that, that's basically 95% of the Bitcoin that is mined. So what we want to talk about is what is left, because when you look at who owns Bitcoin currently, we see that the top 100 public treasury companies and public companies that are publicly traded that own Bitcoin on the balance sheet, they hold more than 1.13 million Bitcoin. So that's a large sum right there. Then when you look at the governments, and the US and China have the largest amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, most of it basically coming from seizures. They have about 500,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Then we have the largest, I believe, the largest private company, which is Tether, and we know Tether as the stablecoin issuer of USDT. They own almost 100,000 Bitcoin. They own about 96,000. Then we have some other Bitcoin whales, some of whom are anonymous, but you can follow what they have in their wallets. And if you see here, Arkham, which is a firm, a research firm that analyzes the blockchain and a lot of transactions that are happening on the blockchain, you can see that by entity, you can see that Satoshi Nakamoto, many believe that this person or this group is now defunct, and most likely that 1 million tokens that belong to that Genesis wallet will probably not see the light of day in terms of any type of trading, and that is pretty much probably permanent. And so you can take away 1 million from that 21 million, so now we have 20 million available. Then we have a company like Strategy, which unless they really reach dire straits, they are saying they're going to continue to accumulate Bitcoin, and I believe that they have a strong possibility of reaching 1 million Bitcoin maybe in the next couple of years, maybe the next few years, but it's definitely a possibility considering how much they have acquired in 6 years since they started their Bitcoin accumulation strategy. So they're nearing a million. They have about 3.5% of the supply currently. Then, as I mentioned to you, the US government has a large supply. Tether has a large supply. So if you take all of these Bitcoin, and we're not including the Bitcoin that's on exchanges because they're basically holding Bitcoin for people like me and you and other institutions. But if we take away the Bitcoin by some of these larger holders, as well as what many speculate to be about at least anywhere from 2 to 4, you get all different figures all in between, but they say that there's at least 2 to 4 million Bitcoin that are just lost. People who lost Bitcoin back in the day and on their hard drives. You hear about various stories of people who threw away their hard drives and were trying to reach out to landfills and to their local jurisdictions to be able to search the landfills for their Bitcoin. But many people, sent it to the wrong address. All different reasons as to why there's a ton of Bitcoin, unfortunately, that are lost forever. But if that is the case, then if you add up all of these Bitcoin as well as the Bitcoin that is lost, there's approximately 20% of the supply that is not going to be available to people like me and you, or even some of the larger banks that we know that are buying, some of the other larger institutions that are buying, some of the sovereign wealth funds that are buying. We've reported recently that Abu Dhabi, one of their major investment funds, have reached about 1 billion holdings of the IBIT ETF. So they're holding a lot of crypto. So we're seeing that the demand is still there. There has been outflows out of the Bitcoin ETFs over the last several weeks, but they still hold over 1 million Bitcoin on their balance sheet on behalf of many different types of holders. So we just want you to have an understanding that when it comes to economics and supply and demand, we know that there is a very limited supply and there's a worldwide demand. So when we look at potentially only around 16 million Bitcoin that are outstanding, that's really available for people like me and you divide it by the population of the world, which is over 8 billion people, that's approximately 0.0019 Bitcoin that's available to every person in the world. So you may want to consider something to consider. Obviously, you want to do your research on this, but if you're able to hold at least 0.0019 or and above, you'd be able to have at least what the average would be for every person around the world. If you want to have more than that, then you want to have 0.002 and above. And so that's going to be around $130 to $150 right now, USD. So it's something to consider. Even if you don't really believe in Bitcoin, maybe even just to have a little something as a little stash, just in case Bitcoin does continue to have the forward progress and trajectory that it has been on since its beginning and since its inception. So obviously we'll continue to keep you posted here on Networkchain with the happenings on with Bitcoin and some of the larger macro environment when it comes to the cryptocurrency and emerging markets as a whole. And we always appreciate you taking your time to check us out here on YouTube as well as on X and Instagram. Until next time, we look forward to linking up with you soon on the Network Chain. Take care. Bye bye.